Emotional language is not the same thing as emotional labor. Have you ever been around someone who knew exactly what to say, when to say it, how to say it, with the emotion and tone? And they could name the feelings and they could say, I hear you, I understand you, I empathize with you. They could say, I care about you, I love you, you're my best friend. They could say, I'm healing and I'm working on myself, I'm in therapy. They could say, I'm working on myself. And they knew the language and the right words to say because they've heard other people say it. But somehow, after the conversation, after the interaction, you were still the one carrying the weight, still the one explaining, still the one adjusting, still the one being inconvenienced and doing the labor and trying to make sense of what just happened, and still the one doing the repair. And that's a hard truth to sit with because sometimes what sounds like emotional maturity or wisdom or clarity is really just emotional language and rubbish. And emotional language is not the same thing as emotional labor and someone willing to do the work. And emotional vocabulary is not the same thing as someone that is emotionally responsible. And a well-worded apology is not the same thing as real repair. And some people are fluent in the words and the language of healing, but still unavailable for the work of healing. So today we are detoxing the difference. What is the difference between the language and the labor? Hey y'all, I am Madison Simone Chase, also known as Miss Chase. I was raised by an incredible single mom who is my best friend, my BFF for real. And my real day one, because I came out of her womb. I am also a celebrity certified personal trainer, fitness and wellness expert, and a sports and entertainment media host. Yes, I've done a lot of things. I was born in Fort Worth, Texas, raised in Dallas, and built in Los Angeles because that's where I lived most of my adult life. I trained at Juilliard School of American Ballet, becoming the world's only 3-time ESPN Miss Fitness champion. And I went from becoming a fitness champion to appearing in more than 450 fitness DVDs, infomercials, and even books. And the first of the 450 fitness DVDs was led by celebrity trainer Gunnar Peterson, who's known for training the Kardashian family. As a certified celebrity trainer myself, some of my most notable clients include Barbara Patterson of Twilight and Batman, Chris Tucker of Rush Hour, and Amber Riley of Glee. And as a sports and entertainment media host who's done lots of red carpets and press junkets and movie premieres and after shows, some of my favorite red carpet moments include chatting with Richard Branson, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Emma Stone, Viola Davis, Tyler Perry, Justin Baldoni, Issa Rae, and Tiana Taylor because she is on a hot streak right now. Go get them, girl. I share my accomplishments to honor the millions of sacrifices my mom planted in me so that I can blossom and flourish into the woman I am still becoming. If you are listening and are watching, I want to say thank you. And I'll invite you to pull up a digital chair and grab yourself a cup of hot or cold herbal tea, depending on where you are. And welcome to my cozy home of Cut to the Chase at 8. It is a 15-minute micro learning moment for macro living. Yeah. And I am really overjoyed that you are here because you could be anywhere. And this space is where we explore and lean into life with our lived experiences, yours and mine, where we invite lots of grace into this space because we're living in some really interesting times. And if you are all about chatting in terms of your spirit, your mind, and your body health, because ultimately that is our wealth, I invite you to this space. So make sure you join me twice daily for just 15 minutes. That's all. I try to keep the episodes to 15 minutes. And episodes are 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Sometimes I'm a little behind, but this is your 15-minute chance for your daily pause, for a cause, for clarity, for wellness, grace, and intentional decision-making, and giving yourself grace because I'm doing the same thing for myself because how we start our day and how we end it matters. Each episode, my offer to you are 3 keys and 1 question to sit with and encourage you to give yourself some space and grace in this space with something practical, something grounded, and something you could hopefully carry with you throughout your day or morning, depending on what time you're listening. So wherever you're listening from or watching from, I want you to turn it up and tune in. And if anything you hear today pricks your heart or lights a spark, I'd love for you to subscribe, follow, and share this with someone you care about. And please leave a comment so that this could become a dialogue and not a monologue. And if you feel led, please leave a 5-star rating. Now let's take a breath together. We're going to inhale for 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And let's cut the noise. Let's get clear and let's get ready, set, grow, and go and be great. So the title for today's episode, again, is Emotional Language is Not the Same Thing as Emotional Labor. this episode really matters because in relationships, friendships, family dynamics, work environments, and collaborations and partnerships, a lot of people know how to sound emotionally aware. I've had it in all of those instances. They know how to use the words. They know how to sound reflective, and they know how to sound like they care. And they also know how to sound like they're connected to you in some way. And they use the words in the labels. But emotional language and emotional labor are two very different things, because emotional language are the words that people use to describe care and awareness and feelings and healing and empathy and connection. But emotional labor is the work required to sustain and make people feel safe and that there's a safe connection. And so that means accountability, repair, regulation, consistency, and follow through. And words can acknowledge a problem, but labor is what helps repair it. So anybody can learn the language. If you're on social media enough, you can see it. And not everybody has the built-in capacity to actually execute. And I say that with grace because this is not about perfection. This is about patterns. And people can learn both, and people can be growing, but growth is not just what someone says they're learning. Growth is also what changes in how they show up in their behaviors, which brings me to key number one. Can you name the pattern? Like, what is actually happening? And what is actually happening is it's this. If you are hearing emotional language, feel good language, but not experiencing the emotional labor or you feel good around that person, and if you've ever felt confused by exactly that, you are not crazy, because emotional performance can sound like care. It could sound like, oh, I hear you. I empathize with you. I understand. I know what you're going through. I care about you. I am trying. I didn't mean it like that. I didn't mean to say that. I apologize. I am so sorry. I am healing. I am working on myself. But there is no behavior change. So if there is no accountability and if there is no repair, then what you are actually hearing may be language, but not the labor or the effort or the actions. And some people can describe care better than they can practice it. I call it putting feet to your faith. They could explain themselves for an hour and still leave you carrying the impact or the weight. They could use the emotionally aware words and still avoid emotionally being responsible in behavior that looks like they're responsible for their words. And so emotional language may sound like connection. Emotional labor creates evidence of the connection. And that's the difference, right? Which brings me to key number two. So we want to name the distortion and what we may possibly be confusing with this. So this is where the distortion can happen. You may be giving credit for language that has not been earned through their behavior. I'll say that again, because this one is a doozy. It's a challenging one. And I had to stop giving people credit for language they had not earned through their behavior. And watching sometimes when people do that, you have to watch closely. And so that does not mean that people have to be perfect. It means that I had to stop confusing emotional vocabulary with emotional maturity. And age does not dictate maturity or wisdom. And I had to stop confusing apologies with meaning that they had repaired their behavior. And I had to stop confusing expressions with effort. And I had to stop confusing self-awareness as talk with self-accountability. And I had to stop confusing someone being deep with someone or being dependable, because some people can describe the connection better than they can sustain it. And that is an interesting place to be, because some people can name the wound, but that doesn't mean that they can name the trigger or the trauma. They can name the feeling and still not do the work required to protect the relationship, the friendship, the work relationship. And if we're not careful, we will call that growth just because it sounds like growth. It sounds like, oh, this person is growing, they're maturing. But insight without action still leaves someone carrying the weight if there is no action. And that weight is usually you and me, which brings me to key number three, restoring the order. What you and I must do. And what should you do? If you want to restore the order and restore peace, we got to stop grading connection by how well it is described in the words that come with it. And we got to start grading it by the consistent behavior and actions, because that is what is required from you and I, and what consistency will produce in you. So we got to evaluate the emotional labor, not just the emotional language. And so here's a question I invite you to sit with and ask yourself. Do you and I make room for a reality or only their reality? And do they regulate when things get uncomfortable? And do they repair after something has been ruptured? Do they repeat the same harm but with better wording? Do I leave interactions or feelings Do I feel grounded, or am I emotionally overloaded or overworked? And is there consistent effort or just occasional insight? And that is discernment. And this is not just about dating. This is also about relationships and people that you work with, and environments and people that you're in group chats with and in collaborations with, and partnerships and future partnerships. A person can be emotionally expressive and still not be emotionally available. Those two things can exist at the same time. A workplace can use caring language or inclusive language and still create unsafe environments and patterns. And a collaboration can sound aligned and still leave one person doing all the emotional labor and or work. So pay attention to the pattern. And if presence is not proven by the words used in the moment, then what is that? Because presence is proven by consistency, accountability, repair, and effort, time after time after time. So the reflection question again. So here's the reflection question to sit with. Where in your life are you giving credit for emotional language when you need to be evaluating emotional labor and actions? And if you want to go one layer deeper, you could do that and ask yourself, what am I hearing and what am I actually experiencing? And sit with those two things. What are you hearing and what are you actually feeling? And give yourself time to feel and make a decision and tell yourself the truth about whatever that may be. So before you go, I just want to say thank you from the bottom and top of my heart. It has truly been an honor and a pleasure to spend this time with you and share this time with you. And I am so very thankful for your continued support. And I appreciate all of the downloads and the listening and the voicemails that I received. And I'm very thankful that you chose to step into this cozy digital home with me. So let's go over the 3 keys and one reflective question again. So key number 1 from this episode of emotional language versus emotional labor. It's important to name the pattern. Emotional language can sound like care without requiring emotional labor. Key number 2. It's important to name the distortion. I have to stop giving credit for language that was not earned through behavior. Key number 3. Restoring the order. Evaluate accountability, repair, consistency, and effort over time. And our one question to sit with and reflect on. Where in my life am I giving credit for emotional language when I need to be evaluating emotional labor? So if today's episode offered you clarity, insight, or even a pause for a cause you didn't know you needed, or if this episode, anything that I said, if it pricked your heart or lit a spark, I'd love for you to subscribe and share this podcast and this episode in particular with someone you care about. And please leave a comment so that this becomes a dialogue and not just a monologue of me talking to myself. And if you feel called, please leave a 5-star rating because it helps this space to grow and reach others. So thank you again for listening. And before we close, I want to extend a gentle invitation. If you've been listening consistently and reflecting and doing the work, or feel called to move beyond just listening, I'd love for you to consider being a part of the C3 community. What is the C3 community? The C3 community is cut to the chase at 8, Chasers Circle, and become a founding member, because this is a foundational community for those who really want to connect and build with like-minded people and grow and heal together, and intentionally and honestly, and doing that in a group of people. And so that special group of people will be the people who shape what this podcast will continue to become. And so I'd be honored to have you be a part of that. So thank you again for joining me here twice a day for our daily 15-minute microdose for macro living. Now let's close with one breath. We're going to inhale for 3, 2, 1, exhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'll see you tomorrow at 8 a.m. and again at 8 p.m. Central Time. I am Madison Simone Chase, and this is Cut to the Chase at 8. And you are ready, set to go and grow, and let's be clear and let's be great. Blessings to you and yours. Until tomorrow. Until tomorrow.